Hello everyone, Jason here with VC Edge. Today I wanted to show you some cool parts being machined, but I have a problem with my spindle. It's pretty strange, but let's check it out and see if we can find out what's going on. So there was a slight incident. You can see here. I'll roll in the footage of what happened. Essentially, I copied and pasted some operations and forgot to change the feeds and speeds for slotting. Anyway, so that's what happened. And during that process, I changed out the tool, went to go reprogram everything and start again. But the spindle seems to have locked up. Normally this spring just spins completely free, but it is just locked in place. So I'm not sure why that happened. I'm worried that I caused some damage to the spindle, but this is not the most uncommon thing for a small end mill like that to get broken. Let's take a look inside, see if we can figure out what else is going on. Okay, so I've taken off the power drawbar and I've taken off the belt that goes to the motor. So the motor is fine, it spins free. But the spindle itself, nothing is connected to it. It's not completely locked. I can actually turn it a little bit. And there it feels free right there. But there is a spot where it just gets really tight. Almost like the bearings are damaged, or I don't know, is the spindle bent? It's kind of hard to believe. It's obviously my fault that something happened, but I am still really surprised. There doesn't seem to be anything interfering that would cause this, but there's just one spot where it just binds up. It's always in the same spot. I have no idea what happened here. Luckily, this is pretty easy to work on. Taking out the spindle doesn't look like a very complicated process, but I imagine it's still going to cost over $1,000 to get another one. Alright, well, we'll come back when I've got more information. I might just go ahead and start taking apart the spindle just to see if there's anything obvious that I can find. Wow, okay, that's tight. I think that's as far as I need to go on the top. There's another lock ring up there, but that's holding the bearing. The cartridge is on this outside. So just need to go to the bottom, unbolt everything, and try to pull it out. There's the drawbar. I don't know what that is. Doesn't look very good. Oh, part of the seal. This last seal here is a little tore up. Okay, it's moving pretty easy. Alright, there's my BT30 spindle cartridge. Let's go take it to the bench. Here's my spindle all taken out. Don't see anything obvious just yet. It does still have that binding right there. So something's wrong. Yeah. I'm going to try to take this front cap off, see what we can see in there. It is interesting, there's a little spot here. It looks like it's been rubbing a bit. I wonder if that's what did it. Oh yeah, look at that. It spins free now. Huh. Well, what does that mean? Is this bent? Or did this just get knocked off center enough from all the vibration? This is a very close fit. Yeah. It spins free now with it just sitting in there, but I can sort of feel where it's touching it every so often. Well, I'm not sure if that's good news or bad news. I suppose what I can do is put an indicator on here and check to see if my taper is still true when it's spinning around. If it's off by anything at all, then I'll know that there's a problem and I would need to replace this. Okay, so I've got my indicator set up. It's mounted to the spindle body. And we'll check the runout on that inside taper. Well, that looks fine. It wiggles a little bit, but let me get a different indicator on. Finer resolution, should see more of what's going on. So each one of those lines is 1/10,000th. Looks like we're getting about 1/10,000th total run out. I'm not sure what the spec is. That's one question I'll have for Tormach for sure. We'll see what they say, if that's an acceptable range or not. Unfortunately, I don't know what it was before. I never checked it. Usually if you get your tools within 1/10,000th, you're looking really good. So I'd be willing to say that this is probably all right. But we'll find out. Here's the runout on the outside. If anyone's interested in that. The surface isn't quite as smooth. Looks like maybe 2/10. Just under 2/10 of runout on the outer bore. That's not too bad either. You can even see, looks like right here, where it was making contact. All the way around. So that could have been it. It's possible I might be able to get this going again. Alright, so what I'm going to do is try to stone this out. I have some really fine stones that I can use to try to get rid of that. So I'm going to try to stone that out and stone out the galling that you can actually feel the texture there. And then I'll try to put it back together and see if that takes care of it. This just looks like what it has on here is it's not a gasket, but it's what you would call a FIP seal, form in place. It's just some silicone. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem to put back. And yeah, let's just do that, see what we get. So I have this this small, very smooth stone. So I'm just gonna try and take some of the texture off of this. It's not really gonna make it look any different, but just to make sure there aren't any spots sticking up. So if it feels smooth on this stone, then I think I'm probably okay. Alright, so I'll just keep going with that, and then we'll use another stone to get the other piece. Okay, well, that's better. It's definitely got some pretty nasty spots, but they're at least below the surface now. The stone just took off all the high points. And for this piece, it's got a little bit of the same galling right here. I can kind of feel it. It's not too bad, but there's definitely some material sticking up there. So I'll do the same thing with that, but with another stone that's rounded, so I can get in here. Alright, so I've got that all smoothed out. It doesn't look very pretty, but at least there's no more high spots that are going to interfere with anything. I'm going to take this seal off of here. Yeah, so I guess that's what happened. Maybe this deflected enough during that cut that it contacted the edge and caused it to bind up, and yeah, and then it galled the material on the inside, and that caused it to stay stuck. So now that that galling has been taken off, I should be able to reseat this and seal it and have it run just fine, but we'll see. Alright, so I didn't see any oil or anything, grease or anything in here, so I'm just going to leave it dry. It shouldn't be making contact anyway, so it should be fine like that. The bolts are just some M4 by 0.7, looks like they're grade 8.8, and so the torque on those should be something like 23. Should be something like 23 inch-pounds from what I've been able to look up. Now, keep in mind this is an unsanctioned repair. Tormach might have their own specs for this. So I got these surfaces all clean, and I'm just going to use some gasket sealant, silicone. This is gray. They had black stuff on there before, but I don't think color really matters that much. Try to leave a even bead of it around the outside, not too much. Take Take some of the excess off. I don't really want any on this ring, just around the outside edge. Alright, that looks pretty good. Got an even amount around the outside. So, what orientation does this go in? Yeah, I can't tell that they go any particular way. Alright. I'm leaving these loose so I can check to make sure it's not touching as I turn this around. Let's see if I can hear anything. I do. Alright, let's just start tightening it down. Ooh, wow. And there, it's locked up again. Every time I tighten these down, it starts binding up again. Alright, we'll torque these down and keep checking as I go to make sure it still doesn't have any binding. Got my torque screwdriver set to 23 inch-pounds. Alright, just clean up the excess sealant, and it's spinning nice and free. Doesn't sound like anything's rubbing. I just hear the sound of the bearings. Doesn't sound like this is hitting at all. Alright, so I might have this fixed. Only time will tell whether this will hold up and last like I think it should. Okay, this might not be any good, but it does spin free now, so I think it's worth giving it a shot. I'm just going to go put this back in the machine, put it all back together, and we'll see how it runs. So it looks like I do actually have this oriented a different way than what it was originally. If you look at this this hole here, not sure what that's for, but that's a good reference point. From my footage that I saw before, these two holes were offset by 2 sets on this side. So they should be sitting right over here, basically on the opposite side of where I have them. I don't know if that matters very much. I don't know what these are for, but I'm going to take this off and reorient it and reseal it. Hopefully it still works just fine. Alright, got it all tightened down. It is a little finicky getting that aligned right, but I don't feel any spots where it's gotten tight, and it spins free. Seems good. So let's put it back in the machine. It is interesting that in the instructions that Tormach has for installing like a BT30 spindle upgrade, they say that this hole should be facing the back, but when I got mine, it was up here in the front. I'm just going to put it back in the same way that it was, and go with that. Get a couple of these started, and then I can raise it up and tighten them down. $20 foot-pounds. Alright, let's get the rest of the pulley system put back in. So I gotta put the drawbar back in. But it needs a new O-ring. So I'm gonna see if I can find one of those. All right, there's my drawbar. One of these O-rings, the lower one, definitely got a little jacked up at some point, either during installation or when I was taking it apart. But usually that kind of thing happens when you're installing. It's a neat opportunity to see the pull stud gripper. You don't usually get to see this when it's just always in the machine. So I guess I might as well put some grease in here while I'm at it. Pretty cool. And I'm just going to replace them all. They all had a little bit of damage on them. Now, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be oily or greased, but it looked like it was oily. So I'm just going to coat this in oil, put it back in the machine. This is where the O-rings get cut if you just shove it in there. Hopefully that's all right. Seems to be working all right. Hopefully those O-rings didn't get cut on the way. It's hard to tell without taking it apart again. I'm gonna try to clean up all this stuff while I'm in here. There's a bunch of rubber embedded in these grooves. Might as well clean it out now. This is an aluminum pulley, so I'm using a brass pick to get this stuff out. You wouldn't want to use anything harder than that. Just adding a paint mark here as a torque stripe so I can tell if it ever starts to come loose. Got to put the drawbar, the power drawbar back on. So I got the power drawbar back on, and it actually works just fine. But I was looking at the instructions, and it says that this gap should only be like 30 thousandths. And the funny thing is, though, that this was already in here and just ran all the way up. If I adjust it out to the right gap, somewhere around there, well, I think it's missing something here. There's no jam nut to hold this in position. I'm gonna have to see if I can find one. So this isn't a jam nut, but it is a nut that I found in the junk pile. This happens to be exactly the right distance, and it fits over the bolt. So I'm using it as a spacer to get that set right. So one of the reasons I wanted to get that gap shortened is because during some of the automatic tool changes, it would seem to stick a little bit. So I wanted to make sure that this was reacting fast enough. So with less distance to cover, I'm hoping that that will fix that particular issue. So it's the next day. All my sealant should be dry, and just gonna turn it on and see how it does. 500 RPM. All right, that sounds just fine. I'm gonna let it run through a warm-up cycle, and then we'll crank it up and see how it sounds. So everything seems to be okay so far. Here it is running at 10,000 RPM. Everything's nice and quiet, just like it used to be. So I was able to get a hold of Tormach, and they explained this problem with the spindle nose cone. Apparently a lot of them, or some of them, were manufactured a little bit undersized, and so this tends to happen under some high loads. They did mention that the runout that I have is totally fine, and they're going to send me a new nose cone so that this doesn't happen again in the future. So when I get that, I'll install it, but otherwise we're good to go. I hope you found this interesting. I really did, and I think it's time to get back to work. So I'll see you in the next video.